I feel like it's really important to discuss such topics nowadays. So let me introduce myself. My name is Svitlana. I'm 21 years old. I'm currently pursuing my master's in management, and I'm gonna start with explaining a little bit about my journey and about the journey of the people that I met through it. So as you might know, my country is at war right now. It's a big, huge crisis, not only for our country, but also for the countries who depend on resources that Ukraine has. So when 24th of February happened, I was actually traveling abroad, enjoying life, not knowing all of these problems that are about to come, right? And then suddenly, everything got changed. I felt super disconnected from my family and friends. So that was the main reason why I decided to move to Poland and be closer to my people to try to help Ukrainian refugees. And Poland at that time, back in March, April, May, and still now is the big hub of welcoming Ukrainian refugees. And this is especially concerns for women, kids, and elder people. So I'm gonna divide by groups and I'm gonna go through it. So first group is Ukrainian women and young girls as refugees, right? So what challenges do they face? First, and the biggest challenge, of course, it's to get out of the country. In March and April, there was a huge issue. The trains to the Poland were just overcrowded. There were no place. People were in despair, so they had to leave the country. And of course, this is a big decision mentally also for women. Then as they arrive to the country, right, it can be Poland, it can be Moldova, Romania, other countries, the whole pack of new challenges arises before women. So I'm gonna just go through the list. First of all, it's place to stay. A lot of women at that time, I was talking to them personally, they thought that it's only going to be temporarily, that they need a place to stay for like few weeks, a month, because nobody believed that actually happened with us, right? But then, in fact, women were needed in permanent place to stay. So that's one, and the biggest issue that the Polish government and all the NGOs were addressing at that time. I remember they built huge tents around the train station to help to fit in the refugees there, but it was not enough. Thousands of people. If I'm not mistaken, right now it's about 7.6 million refugees, Ukrainian refugees, all over the Europe and all over other countries. So it's a pretty huge number. So yes, the place to stay, the accommodation was a huge issue. The second issue that arises is the job, right? Ukrainian women and young women wanted to provide for themselves. So they were looking for a job. Here, another issue arises, the language barrier, right? Women in Ukraine did not know the language of the country they're planned to reside in. So it was not only the issue of day-to-day conversations with locals, you know, but also it worsened the chances of getting the job. And from my experience, 80% of women and young girls leaving their country, right, that I've met in Poland, did not know English. So it didn't help them at all. I was there as volunteer and tried to provide as much help as I could, but it was a huge issue. So that's like my top three issues, challenges that women were facing. Of course, there were many other relatively small but personal issues that made it hard for women to, you know, be mentally stable. And that's what I wish it would provided more at the time. Now I'm moving next to the next group, to Ukrainian women and young girls who are still in Ukraine, who are staying in Ukraine. They had, so first of all, there's also internally displaced people, right? There's women who are coming from the east regions, from the south regions, who left their place, left their apartment, left their everything behind, just in order to survive, right? In order to just get out there and be safe, relatively safe, of course. So challenges that they're facing is pretty much the same as the challenges that the refugees outside of Ukraine facing. It's the accommodation issue, it's basic humanitarian issue, if they don't have money savings and so on. And it's also job issue. Unemployment in Ukraine right now, according to unofficial statistics, because it's not possible for us now to provide an official numbers and statistics on the unemployment rate. So according to the statistics right now, there's about 25 to 30% of population unemployed. So of course, it creates a big challenge for women and for men also to survive, to provide for themselves. So humanitarian aid is important. Of course, rent and costs for accommodation is important also. And then I'm moving to the most affected group by this war. It's Ukrainian women and girls that are staying along the front lines or unoccupied regions of Ukraine. This is a complete disaster. Women there are the most exposed to all kinds of violence, of sexual violence, physical abuse, mental abuse. They're always threatened, not only by, bombs and missiles and rockets, but they threatened by the people with guns. And of course, both mentally and physically, it's really hard to survive, right? Also, the issue and the challenge they're facing there is lack of electricity. There's constant power outages for weeks, for a few weeks, for months. There's lack of water supplies. There's increased, I don't know how to explain how much prices went up in those regions for food, because Russians are trying to supply their food in our regions and provide for the people, right? But the prices increase just ridiculously. So it creates another issue. Another challenge for Ukrainian women that are under occupation right now is the job itself. So it's either you're not working at all, you're not doing anything, or you're forced to work for Russian government. That's how it is right now. And all of us are really upset about this. All of us understand how big of an issue it is, because with a job, you can provide for your family, provide for yourself, right? Without the job, you cannot do even that. Another challenge, the biggest, I think, as for me, because I come from the town that is now occupied. My parents went through this path of moving out of the town, so I know a lot about that. But right now, Russians are not even letting people leave. So people who want to go to Ukrainian-controlled territories are not being able to do so. I think I'm talking too much, I'm sorry, but there is a lot of challenges for young women and for girls and for women, for people like in general, to overcome this war, to survive this war. And there's really lots of ways to help. It can be anything from financial assistance, medical assistance, education. For example, refugees in other countries, they're asking for free courses of English, at least, of other languages, or like educational courses that can get the higher possibility of getting a job, right? You can donate to fundraisers for helping Ukrainian women and Ukrainian girls directly. Also, you can cooperate with your local government, right? You can ask them to provide more humanitarian and financial assistance to the women and children that are affected by war in Ukraine. For example, if you have a business, you can use your brand to shine a spotlight on the crisis that Ukrainian women and kids and girls are facing right now. Stand with Ukraine, please, show your solidarity. And it's really important for us to spread the information, spread the awareness around people. We've seen the effect of talking about it out loud, right? A lot of countries are helping us. A lot of people individually are helping us. And this is really important for us. I really appreciate it. And I think all of Ukrainian people, Ukrainian women and Ukrainian girls are appreciating also. But so there's a lot of ways to help, right? But before this meeting, I was thinking, what is the best way, the best solution to this problem, right? How to help women and children in overcoming this challenge and supporting themselves during the war times. And this is my key point here. So I believe in order to bring an end to gender inequality and abuse, violence that women are exposed to during the conflict time, I think war needs to come to an absolute end. In my mind, it's just as simple as that. The crisis Ukrainian girls and Ukrainian women are in now is simply because of unnecessary, devastating, and cruel war that Russia brought to our land. I ask you here to be proactive about this, to talk about this, to go to demonstrations and meetings to support Ukraine, to demand from the government more sanctions on Russia, to put pressure on them, because as we saw, Russia does not know the language of democracy. They know the language of power. And if so, we need to show them that we can speak their language, you know? And of course, it's super important to donate to Ukrainian military. And I think all of this, along with helping women directly, will minimize the challenges that they're facing now, but also will lower the possibility of more women suffering from war in the future. Thank you so much.